Hey, so this is the homework textbook problem I was talking about, and I took the data from this row and that row, and I typed it into the Google spreadsheet that I sent you a link to. And so I just typed, typed the information into these two columns of the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet did all the work for me, got me my mean and my standard deviation that I needed to answer part A. So I am going to talk about how to answer part B, which is asking you for the shape of the data. And in the example from the textbook, I need to first figure out where most of the data is. Okay, and I'm going to do that by looking at the probabilities of each one occurring. So the biggest probability, 0.26, and the second biggest probability, 0.15, are both here up in the upper values, right? 6 and 7 are the two highest ones. So you would think that the average would be somewhere on the higher end. But interestingly, the mean here is actually lower than where most of the data would be. And the reason for that is because you have these smaller numbers which don't turn up as often because they do have a smaller probability, but they're still there. So these lower numbers are dragging down the average. So again, the mean is lower than where most of your data is. So that is a cue to me that the data are skewed. And if we look at a visual representation of that data, the graph from the book, it makes sense, right? Most of it's here in the higher end, but then you've got these lower numbers that are dragging down the average. So this is skewed left. Now, what if you have exactly the opposite thing occur? So let's say I've used the Google Sheet, I've typed in my data into those two columns, I've gotten a mean and a standard deviation. Once again, I notice that the higher or the highest probability is these same two. So most of the data is around 6 and 7, but this time the average or the mean is actually higher than where most of my data is. So this time that means that I must have most of my data are here around that 6 and 7, but then instead of some lower numbers dragging it down like before, I've got a few higher numbers that are dragging up the mean. So in this case, this would be skewed to the right instead of our first example, which was skewed to the left.